Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and I want to extend a really warm welcome to Encounter Your Wild Power. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the final event of our Wild Power retreat, and it's also the introductory event for our upcoming 6-week Wild Power online immersion, which we are really excited to tell you about. So thank you for being here. Thank you for saying yes to this deep exploration of the power of the menstrual cycle. My name is Sophie. I'm Sophie Jane Hardy. I'm the communications director at Red School, and I'm here with Alexandra and Shani, who I'll introduce you to in just a moment. But before we begin, I really want to welcome the totality of you here today. You might be feeling really intrigued about this. You might also be feeling vulnerable. You might be feeling a bit confused about your cycle. You might be feeling relieved or excited or just everything in between as we come into this exploration of the power that lives in your menstruation, the wild power that lives in you. You might have taken the whole Wild Power retreat journey with us, and you might be totally committed to making 2022 your year of menstrual cycle awareness. Or you also might be totally brand new to this work and you just stumbled upon this event and you're wondering, power in my menstrual cycle? I don't understand what you're talking about. And wherever you find yourself in that spectrum, you're totally welcome. You've got a seat here exactly as you are with the cycle you have, or perhaps you're not cycling at the moment. But either way, your presence makes a real difference in this circle. And simply by being here, you're contributing to the creation of this menstrually aware world that we want to create together. So thank you. It would be lovely to hear who's here. I can see some people coming in and I can see some videos on. Please put your name and where you're from in the chat box so we can see where people are gathering from. And while we're all just settling in and arriving, I'll let you know about how the flow of today's event is going to go. So we've designed this Encounter Your Wild Power event to be an integrative journey into the power that lives in your inner winter, your menstruation. And throughout the Wild Power retreat, if you've been joining us, we've been looking at all the ways that cultivating an intimacy with your cycle can transform your life, can enhance your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health, your relationships, your creativity. And now in this event, it's time to look at how this practice of menstrual cycle awareness can be an initiatory process into a new kind of power and actually a new kind of leadership in our world. So we're going to start with a conversation about this, about the power within the menstrual cycle, how it can initiate you into your own form of leadership, how this leadership is encoded in your body, and why it's so key that we each tap into this power in this time in history and in our world. And then Shani and Alexandra are going to guide you in a reflective experience to uncover your relationship to menstruation so that you can encounter the power that lives here. This is the home of your wild power, your menstrual phase of your cycle. So you might want to have a journal with you because some insights might come up when you take this journey. So you can harvest any of those. You might have your wild power retreat journal with you, in which case you can use one of the pages to harvest your notes. And finally, we're going to close the call by sharing how you can continue the journey with us by joining our Wild Power online immersion. And we're going to share our early bird offer for those of you that know that you want to join now. And then towards the end of the call, we'll have time to hear from you. So your insights and your sharings or any questions you have for us about the Wild Power immersion. And you can actually drop them in anytime in the chat box. We've got the amazing Louise Ryder, who's here, our tech goddess behind the scenes, to answer your questions, any questions you have, or just to give you any assistance you need. So let's have a look and see who's here. I'm just going to pop into the chat box. Great. We have Maria from Romania, Cornelia from Germany, Delphine from Belgium, Natasha from Canada. Hey, Debbie from Toronto, Mojo in the UK, Martina in West Sussex. Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone. Trish from Germany, Sarah from Kempton. Thank you. Thank you for saying yes to this. Right, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our amazing hosts tonight, to Alexandra Pope and Shani Hugo Wurlitzer. So these two women have been pioneering the field of menstruality to expand our health, our creativity, our leadership, our spirituality for over 38 years now. They're the founders of Red School, as well as the world's first leadership training designed to guide you to realize the full authority of your leadership through the power of the menstrual cycle. That's our menstruality leadership program. They are the co-authors of the Hay House book, Wild Power. And later this year, their menopause book is also going to be published by Hay House. So we're really looking forward to that. They're deep in the editing process right now. So Alexandra, Shani, welcome. How are you feeling as we're gathering here today for this event?
I'm just feeling so excited, Sophie, and I'm just loving seeing where everybody's from. It's just so gorgeous to have people from all over the globe. Really, it feels joining us today.
It's incredible. I think it's about 2,000 people have joined us on this Wild Power retreat. And that just does something to me, knowing the incredible momentum we're creating in our community with this sort of cycle aware rhythm that we're all getting deeper into. So I'm feeling so good. And my day 19ness that I'm coming with I feel quite serious, actually. There's something in me that I feel the seriousness of this work and what we're doing and what it means in the world. Actually, I feel very moved saying that right now. It really matters. So yes, I feel stirred.
Thanks, Shani. Let's hear from you both about how this work began. So Alexandra, it was you that birthed this powerful and important body of work that we're sharing at Red School. And it's sourced from your own experience of your cycle. So it would be great if you could share a bit about the roots of the work and how you became so passionate about doing this. And we can hear from you first, Alexandra.
Oh, thank you, Sophie, for that. Oh, my goodness me. My body spoke rather loudly. And I listened. I don't know where that came from, but I just made the choice to listen to my body. So the short version of a rather long story is that this work was really ignited very consciously 38 years ago when I got the most horrendous menstrual pain that then started turning up each menstrual month. And yeah, I made this radical decision to believe in my body, that it was talking to me and I was going to listen to it. And that what that meant was to give space to menstruation. And of course, if I was bringing attention to menstruation, it meant I had to be aware of the whole cycle. And I was very lucky because my cycle was really regular, very regular. So I knew when it was going to come. So it was like an early prototype of cycle awareness that I began doing as part of this medicine to actually heal my body of this horrendous pain, because I wasn't going to take drugs to manage it or have surgery. I wanted to experience a normal cycle. So I always say I was taken on a wild ride into the heart of menstruation, and really sort of almost accidentally stumbled on this power. But it was this fidelity really to the cycle, and each month something would happen at menstruation, and I importantly healed my symptoms. I mean, it did take time, and I was using natural therapies. But yeah, it began in pain. And Shani, you also had a very unique awakening through your body, didn't you, to this?
Yeah, mine's interesting because I had the experience of having no menstrual cycle for 7 years because I was on hormonal contraception, on the contraceptive injection, which completely shut down my cycle. So this was in my early 20s, so no cycle whatsoever. And one of the symptoms I started to experience as a result of that contraception was pain after orgasm, which kind of took the fun out of orgasm. So it really got my attention. And one of the things I looked to remedy that was I had a hunch that the contraception was affecting me. I had a hunch that that was at the cause of it. And of course, when I stopped the contraception, that pain completely went away. But then my cycles came back. And in that experience of my menstrual cycle coming back, I felt like, well, I felt like life woke up in me again. You know, those years without a cycle felt so barren and monotone and flatlined. And when my cycle came back, it was this sort of rhythm and aliveness and technicolor that came back into my life. And of course, a whole range of emotion that I hadn't quite had access to in those years of not cycling. So something was unleashed in me. And I ended up making all kinds of changes in my life as a result. I felt like I got back into the groove of my life. I got onto the track of my calling. And that then led me down the merry road of synchronicities to meet none other than Alexandra Pope. So that was about 13 years ago now, that we, not that we met, but that we actually began working together. We met before that. We began working together 13 years ago. And of course went on to form Red School, and well, the rest is history.
Yeah, and it's really in these last 13 years, isn't it, Shani, that the work has just gone through this radical evolution.
Yeah.
And it's just become this very subtle, sophisticated body of knowledge on or what we talk of as the healing powers of the cycle, the creative forces, and the spiritual powers that are all held in this monthly dynamic. And I think me going through menopause gave the sort of final piece of the picture, because I went through menopause about 13 years ago, was coming out of it. And so we have this really sophisticated body of knowledge, and we now run the most comprehensive and life-changing menstruality programs that are available to support your leadership, your creativity, and your spiritual life. And, to restore the power of the menstrual cycle for us all.
Thanks, Alexandra. Let's get into this conversation about the power in the cycle, because for some people this concept might be like, what, it's so different from the collective conversation that people are having around the menstrual cycle in the world. There is power here. And Shani, at the beginning of our session today, you said you were really in touch with on your day 20. Your day 20, right? Day 19, day 20?
19, but give it a few more days and that's only going to go up a couple of notches.
But you were in touch with how much this matters and how much it's needed. So let's go there. Why does the world need to know about the power in the menstrual cycle? Why do we all need to know about it?
Yeah, like I say, this really stirs me. Sophie, we believe that this is a vital part of the answer to the challenges that we're facing on the planet right now. There's this, I think we all feel it, this incredible necessity for us humans to find a different way, to just draw on a new way of being, to access a new kind of power. And that's the power of the feminine, which we know it will help us find a whole new way of responding that is generative, that's creative, that will actually deal with some of the shit that's going down in the world today. So for us, it's a vital piece in the puzzle for really caring for the world and seeing it into a new era.
Yes, and what's so interesting is it's this act, Sophie, of menstrual cycle awareness that works it's actually an awakening process. I mean, it awakens you. I mean, whether wittingly or unwittingly, it is actually awakening you to the power of the feminine. I know this is a very, very huge statement, and this is the kind of thing that we unpack in our training and so on, and in the immersion. But and it's awakening you to your very singular power. So there's this power of the feminine, this new way of operating, and then the very singular power you have, or role, it's your wild power in creating positive change in the world. So it's really what menstrual cycle awareness offers is it supports you to really fully occupy yourself. It's this journey into a kind of deep embodiment of who you are and your place in the world. And then from that, you just organically start to become this force of change that the world needs now. So, if we can really trust our menstrual cycles, we can come to know and trust this power of the feminine. We can trust its presence within us, and we can learn to draw on it to help us navigate the challenges that we're encountering.
Mm.
Now, I just really want to emphasize that when we talk about the feminine, we're not talking about something that is pertaining to women. It's an archetypal force that's available to all genders. It's an
Mm.
archetypal presence that's bigger than us, that's working us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the good news is, for us women, or for any person who has a menstrual cycle, we have a direct line to this archetypal power through our menstrual cycle. So, when we're talking about the menstrual cycle, we're talking about power, you being a channel for this power, and this power of the feminine. And we're also talking about you coming into your power, into really coming into who you are, into this sense of agency, so that you can go out in the world and fulfill your mission, fulfill what you're here to serve.
Yeah. I love what you're saying, Shani. So, and when we're doing this work of cycle awareness, we're by repairing our relationship to the menstrual cycle, which, by the way, if you're postmenopause right now, you can actually still do that.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're altering your relationship to power. And it's just so amazing this how it happens. And what you're doing is you're reweaving yourself back into the fabric of nature again. It's a process of belonging and connection. So the cycle awareness is building this a feeling of belonging and connection. It's like a deep trust in life itself that starts to emerge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As you're talking, Alexandra, I can see people nodding. There's this for many people here, I imagine there's this sense of, yeah, I know this. I know this in my being. And even though so many of us know and feel this deeply, there's still a great taboo around this topic,
Mm.
And what I want to ask you, what I'd love you to speak about is, if the menstrual cycle is such a powerful thing, why is the world ignoring it? And why isn't anyone talking about it? Because if it's this profound resource, what's going on? What's going on there?
Well, firstly, we are talking about it, but you're right. The rest of the world is catching up with us. Do you know what, Sophie? It's about women, isn't it? It's only really been in the last 50 years that women have had the space, the financial, political, social freedom to be able to stand for who we are, how we're different, to stand for our power. When I say that, I really want to acknowledge, of course, that there are many women still who do not have these freedoms to speak out in the way that we are, which is a privilege I take very, very seriously. But, we've, over history, been actively taught to deny the menstrual cycle. We've been led to believe that it's something that we've got to overcome to succeed, that it's a limit, it's a limitation. But the truth is, we can't ignore this natural rhythm within us and expect there to be no fallout, expect there to be no consequence from that.
Yeah, and really, so much of the suffering that we have with the cycle today comes from, it's a
Mm,
direct consequence, isn't it, Shani, of
mm,
denying it.
mm,
And my healing was about really coming in fully, deeply into relationship with the cycle. And that's where the first medicine kicked in.
mm,
So when we deny this organic pattern of activity and rest, which is what the menstrual cycle really holds, it begins to, if we deny that, it begins to work against us. So many of us feel a pressure to be sort of constant, unchanging, busy, productive. Which is quite frankly, is very patriarchal. But what is happening is it numbs and deadens us, and it disconnects us from ourselves. And really, it's the royal route to burnout.
mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. And there's a deeper level to this, which is that to connect with your cycle is to expose yourself to yourself, because the cycle invites you into your deepest vulnerability and who wants to go there? I mean, really, who wants to go there? No one goes there willingly. But it's this vulnerability that is really the source of our power. And it is the part in the power process that has been the most undermined, the most shamed, the most distorted. And this is at the heart of what we're reclaiming when we reclaim our menstrual cycle and become a channel for the feminine.
It's beautiful. It's the vulnerability where the power is.
Yeah.
So I think we need to unpack this a bit, because there's still when you say the power of the menstrual cycle, there can still be a sense of it being incongruous. So let's look into this. What do you mean when you say there is power? What is the power that's in the cycle?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Sophie. And I also think what we should talk about is how to tap into this, because it's one thing saying what we mean, but actually how. I'm thinking especially of people who are listening, who might never have considered that their cycle is anything but a hassle, or people who struggle with their cycle, something that they've got to overcome. So I'm thinking of them as well. So let's get to that question as well. Alexandra, do you want to take
Yes, I'm just
take them up?
really, I'm sort of feeling those that suffer with their
Yeah,
cycles right now. And
yeah,
yeah, why would you want to bother with it? Yeah.
yeah.
So I can look you in the eye, because that's what I do. Yeah. So when we talk about the power of the menstrual cycle, we're referring to how the cycle really connects us into ourselves. And so when you're connected to your menstrual cycle, it's like you've got this direct line to yourself. Now, it's going to be academic if you haven't actually started, doing cycle awareness. But as you do it, you'll notice how it starts to open up a kind of an interior landscape of who you truly are. Beneath all the shoulds of all and oughts of how you're supposed to be. Cycle awareness is like this seditious force that's seducing you away from all the shoulds and oughts and into who you are. It's so fascinating how that happens.
Mm.
And as you practice cycle awareness, you really discover and root into this interior land of yours ever more deeply and surely. It's almost just by magic as you just keep that fidelity with it. So our entire power process is grounded in the menstrual cycle, and the crux of this power is the way the cycle helps you to truly know yourself and connect with your calling. I mean, this just opens up a huge resource of chi, if you like, of power, of agency.
Mm-hmm.
So it connects you with your calling, what we call your wild power. And then, I love the magic of the cycle, and the cycle itself then helps you to realize that in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I'm reminded of, I just want to come back to what I was saying about how our vulnerability is right at the source of our power. And of course, we tap into that vulnerability right at the start of our inner winter, just before bleeding. So, menstruation, then at menstruation, we're permeable, we're sensitized, we're open. And that is the home of our wild power. That is the place where we can then access this deeper knowing of ourselves, where we can really tap into who we are, what we're about, what matters. We get a taste of our singularity, a taste of our specialness, our genius. That's where you get really filled with this full blast of your wild power, this knowing of yourself. And that is the anchor of your power. Because when you're filled with that, you're a mighty, mighty force. Don't get in the way of somebody who knows what their mission is, what they're about.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and then what I really love here, Shani, is then that each phase of the cycle, in turn, is sort of is in cahoots with your with your wild power.
Yeah.
It's like your whole calling is seeded throughout the whole cycle, and each phase of the cycle holds something very particular that helps you to hone and realize this power in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So each phase is that they're like different thresholds that you've got to negotiate on this developmental journey to realize the fullness of who you are. and to manifest the fullness of that calling. So there's this wonderful integrated dynamic going on throughout the whole cycle. And it's like there are these almost, we think of them as sacred tasks, don't we, Shani? These sacred tasks or gifts or powers to each phase that need engaging with and consummating or fulfilling in some way, so that you can really grow into and fully occupy your full psychological and spiritual maturity, and create this coherence in your sense of agency and your capacity to go out into the world to express yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautifully described, Alexandra, how the whole cycle is this power process that's taking this, wild power that you have and helping you to realize it in the world. So I want to just come back to this question of how we access all this, how we actually have an experience of this. So surprise, surprise, the answer is we start by connecting with our cycles. And many of you listening are already doing this. And I want to just say a little bit more about this, because there are so many different ways of going about this. And really, this practice that we have designed, called the practice of menstrual cycle awareness, really takes you into a daily process whereby you can actually tap into this power that we're speaking of. So, I mean, very simply, this is about you giving attention to the changing mood and energy that you experience on each given day in your cycle. So meeting each new day with curiosity, noticing how you're feeling, what your energy like, what's your mood like. And then, and this is the clincher, and this is so easy said and so much more hard to do, you cooperate with the place you're in. You go with the mood you're in, the energy levels you have. If you're tired, you go slower, you rest more, for example. Those of you who've been with us on the Wild Power Retreat, this is what we've been cultivating together. And when we do it in community, oh my, does it make it so much easier when we support each other. So, this is what our immersion is really about. And of course, we've invited you to make this year, 2022, your year of cycle awareness, to really commit to giving your attention to this as a daily mindfulness practice, both to serve yourself, but also as your contribution to the world. So we hope you've said yes to that invitation. If not, there's still time to say yes, to make this your year.
Oh, this, as I'm listening to you, Shani, I'm just so aware that when you start to give yourself, your cycle, that attention, how the cycle comes to meet you, it sort of really unleashes
Yes.
the gold of the cycle. So,
Yeah.
I mean, most of all, when you're connected to your cycle, you're connected to yourself. Just remember that.
Yeah.
And that in itself is like manna. It's like manna, food. And then you're sort of drawn into you have a direct line to your calling, your wild power. And that just gets stronger and stronger over the years. And that, it's like the cycle. You'll start to come into a feeling over time that the cycle is actually holding and carrying you. And that's what I mean about the cycle really giving you something. You give the cycle attention, and that awakens something in the cycle. So you have this sense that you're now being held and carried by something. So you trust the energies of the cycle, which vary throughout the month. And then you start to see how necessary those changing energies are, and how it's like a larger intelligence almost that's holding you and guiding you. Yeah, sort of, it's bigger than your left brain can work out, your logical mind.
Yeah, and exactly. And for that reason, it might require a leap of faith. It might require you to really just jump in and commit to giving your cycle this kind of attention. And, when you do, the more you commit, the more you trust it, the more you go with it, the more you will find that your cycle responds. it really does work that way. The more you let go into it and go with it, the more you will feel the sense of what Alexandra's describing, of being held by it and being guided by it. It's a very profound experience. It's a very beautiful experience. I see you nodding, Sophie. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm nodding, and I'm also thinking that there might be people here who aren't cycling at the moment. So maybe they're in perimenopause, so they're in these long phases without a cycle, or pregnant, breastfeeding, postmenopause, or without a cycle for any other reason.
Mhm.
How can they come into this work? Is this work relevant?
It is, and but I really want to emphasize that our wild power immersion that we're going to be talking about later really works wherever you are, because of the way that we've set it up. So you can recover something of this knowledge whether you're menstruating or not. So practically, if you currently don't have a cycle, you can practice cycle awareness following the moon. And so new moon is day one. Right now, I think we're on day 24 of the moon. All I know is new moon's on February the 1st.
Your birthday.
My birthday. Chinese New Year. It's very exciting. Um, so and so the energies of the moon are much more subtle compared with the energies of your menstrual cycle, because those are inside your body. But the more you attune you to the phases of the moon, you will start to see echoes of the kind of things that happen with the cycle. And it still has a kind of magic, so you can still attune to something. And you'll also become more perceptive to just cycles in general.
Mhm.
Because of course I'm postmenopause, but I honestly feel profoundly held by all sorts of different cycle rhythms. So and so if you're charting by the moon, new moon is day one of the cycle, and full moon is your equivalent of ovulation. So that's what you can do. And in the wild power immersion, the tools and practices we're offering can be worked with by everyone, and they'll help you deepen into cyclical wisdom. I can't emphasize how, for me now, it's just so vital. I live by cyclical wisdom in everything I do. And so in that way you can really embody your menstruality consciousness, whatever life stage you're at. It's going to be different, from the menstrual cycle, but it is still going to be cyclical work. And if you're postmenopause, you actually have a memory of your cycling years that you can draw on, or to subtly reframe things. Equally, if you're pregnant right now, you've got a memory of your cycle. So for those of you who aren't menstruating, we are inviting you to dive into the process, because we believe you can actually repair the energetics of your cycle regardless. This is actually really important because many of us are coming to this work quite late. And it'll really help to give you a greater sense of coherence and alignment with yourself and your power.
Mhm.
And music, there's been quite a lot of people who've done postmenopause, people who have done this course, and the feedback from them has always been
Yeah.
fantastic.
Actually, it's been so impactful for the postmenopause people who
Yeah,
have done the program. Yeah, it's
yeah,
really
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. It's really cool. Mhm.
Well, gorgeous. Thank you for everything you've shared. I think we have done a good unpacking of the power in the menstrual cycle. And let's shift gears now and move from conversation and thinking and concepts into feeling some of this in our own lived direct experience. Yeah, should
Oh
we go
yeah,
for it?
let's go for it, Sophie. Yeah,
Okay. So we're going to shift gears now, go into a different mode. And yeah, Shani's going to guide you, Shani and Alexandra are going to guide you in this reflective exercise, followed by a guided imaginal process. So I just invite you to you might want to actually get up and like stretch your body, or take a couple of deeper breaths. It's good to have your journal close by for this. And yeah, hand over to you, Alexandra, to get us set up for the exercise.
great. Thank you, Sophie. All right, so let's begin. All right, so if we're going to explore power, we need to start with our relationship with menstruation, as we've said, because it's the home of your power, your wild power. And so your relationship to menstruation is crucial, and it's going to just reveal something to you about your relationship to your power. And many of you may be feeling a chasm between yourself and your bleed for whatever reason. And you may even be thinking, oh, it's madness right now to imagine building a wholesome relationship to menstruation. And for some of you, it may be unconscious. So for some of you, it's maybe very conscious, and for others, it may be just much more subtle. So we're going to begin slowly by just first addressing some of the overlays, okay, that shroud or hide the power of menstruation. I mean, the cultural crap, for want of a better phrase. So I want you to make sure have you got paper and pen with you now? Because we've got 3 questions for you to answer. And I want you to, when I ask the question, I actually want you to respond just off the top of your head without thinking, just the first words that come into your head. Jot them down after I've spoken the question. So firstly, let's just take a moment to go quiet and tune into ourselves. Just pulling your awareness back into yourself, just feeling your body. When you think about menstruation, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Okay, just jotting down whatever comes to you. And now the second question. How do you feel about menstruation? And now the third question. What messages have you received about menstruation? Okay. So we hope just these questions have started to, in a sense, break the ice a little, loosen the soil, and perhaps shed just a little bit of light for you, some light on things, just what may have spontaneously come through. And so this is just sort of preparation now, because we want to invite you into a deeper exploration of this relationship. So this is a simple exercise that Shani will guide you in, that will give you insight into a deeper layer of menstruation, which, remember, is the source of your power.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and put your journal to one side and just get yourself comfortable. I'm going to guide you, and this is an experience that you can have. You can do it either sitting down, or if you're somebody who likes to move, you can do this standing up. So whatever works for you, just go ahead and get yourself physically situated. So I'm going to be guiding you into, we're going to continue to work with this theme, and I'm going to be guiding you into connection with your womb. Now, if for any reason you don't have a womb, you can work with your energetic womb. And through this experience, I'm going to, well, what I want to say is to really let yourself stay open to what comes, in whatever form it comes, because we all have different ways of perceiving and sensing and experiencing. So don't manufacture anything, and equally don't censor anything. Whatever comes first, receive it. So really trust what comes and really trust your way of perceiving. All right. So let's take a moment to just separate from the world around us. And for you, that could mean closing your eyes or just taking your attention away from the screen and shifting your attention towards yourself. And go ahead and just breathe a little bit deeper. Maybe breathe a little bit slower as a way to really soothe and settle your system now. Whether you're standing or sitting, finding a little gentle movement that brings you some ease, some comfort. And then go ahead and make a choice to really focus on this process, to really give yourself this experience as fully and completely as you can. And with that choice, just letting the world around you fade and just focusing all of your attention within. And just noticing the way your body's moving as you breathe. Breathing in and breathing out. Just feeling that familiar rhythm. And with the next exhalation, let your attention settle in the crown of your head, right at the top of your head. Give your attention to the sensations at the top of your head. Notice any tension or tightness in your scalp. And then with the next exhalation, just let that tension go. Let your scalp soften, smooth out, ease. And now shift your attention into the area of your face. Again, notice any tightness, any contortions, any armoring in your face. And then when you breathe out next time, go ahead and just allow that tightness to just release, to soften, to let the muscles of your face relax. You may like to yawn and then drop your awareness down into your neck, into your throat. And on your next exhalation, go ahead and allow the tension to release from your neck and throat. And then letting your attention drop down into your shoulders, your chest. And as you breathe out next time, imagine as you release the physical tension that you're letting go of the layers of historical and cultural distortion, just letting go of all of the conditioning that you're holding around menstruation. Breathing out. Maybe you want to let your body move as you release those layers, as you uncloak those layers, that weight of stuff that's encumbering menstruation. and then dropping down a little bit lower through your torso, your upper torso. And as you breathe again with the next exhalation, just imagine you're shedding the negative cultural messages, just shedding all the messages that you have received, everything that is distorting and getting in the way of your wholesome relationship with menstruation. Yeah, if you need to make sound, go ahead and do that. And imagine that you can leave all that behind. Imagine you have left all that behind. And keep breathing fully and deeply and just letting go with each breath, shedding, shedding. That's it, beautiful. And dropping a little bit lower down in your body and just sensing a greater ease emerging now. As you drop down, right down into your womb, feeling that ease emerging as you come into this resting place, this holding of your womb, this place of greater safety, this place of belonging, where you can be utterly present to yourself and feel held. As you breathe, just letting yourself settle in to this soothing and holding of your womb. And as you allow yourself to be soothed and held, so the veils have fallen from your eyes, you are utterly present now to the primal power of menstruation. Utterly present to the primal power of menstruation, a power that is completely unique to you. Take a moment to experience this presence to menstruation, to this power. Notice how it appears to you. What are you sensing? What are you feeling? As you connect with menstruation. Go ahead and be with what is here. Be with what is happening and just allow it to unfold. Allow it to unfold. And now allow this to distill into an image or a word or a phrase or a movement, something that encapsulates the essence of what you are experiencing. A distillation, a word, an image, phrase, a movement that encapsulates the essence of what you're experiencing. In a few moments, I'm going to invite you to re-emerge. And as you do that, stay with this power. Feel the presence of this power with you. So go ahead now and shift your attention to your in-breath. Focus on your inhalation, and with each in-breath, just let yourself rise up from your womb, feeling the presence and power as you rise up through your torso, breathing in, returning with this new knowing something has been awoken. Breathing in, letting your attention rise up to include the whole of your body now, aware of your body present in the room, maybe aware of the room around you. And go ahead and take a deep, full breath in, and then let your eyes open as you come back to the space you're in. And then go ahead and grab your notebook and your pen. We're going to take a couple of minutes now in silence so that you can reflect back on that distillation, that essence that formed in the exercise, and make some notes about it. So go ahead. We'll be sitting in silence as you take some time to journal, reflect. So just finishing up what you're writing.
Oh, I could stay there for a while in that
Yeah,
place.
yeah, and people may want to come back to journaling after the call if they have more they want to unpack. It's a really beautiful
Yeah.
thing to do. Mm.
Yeah, and actually, it would be so nice to hear from you. It would be wonderful
Mm.
if any of you felt like sharing perhaps a sentence or two that distills what you experienced in that encounter. And if you could share it in the chat box, then it would be wonderful to we could read them out. Whatever your insights are, the essence of what you experienced. So yeah, so perhaps I'll take another pause for
Yeah.
people
Mm.
to share that, and then yeah, then we can hear from.
Mm.
It's just amazing how we can lay breadcrumb trails of inspiration for each other.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Mm. Oh. Mm.
It's gorgeous. Oh, there's lots of lovely comments coming in. Just while people are wrapping up what they're sharing, I think it would be really meaningful to hear from you too about how we can actually start to integrate this power that we've encountered or that we might encounter each menstruation into our lives from right now, starting today.
Oh.
Alexandra, maybe you could share some insights there.
Yes, yes, Sophie. I feel so strongly about this, what's possible here. So once again, to say, the source of your power is held within your menstrual cycle. And the key to accessing it is through this amazing practice of cycle awareness or through awareness of the lunar changes. And what that means is as you lean into and you trust and follow the rhythm of your changing nature, just that act of following that rhythm through its cyclical round, it's like you're lowered down into yourself more and more. It may be almost imperceptible, but when you look back, you can see how you've been woven down into yourself deeper and deeper over time. And you come into this well of inner kindness with yourself. This all goes together. And it is this that awakens the power that lies almost, I guess, like sleeping in you. It awakens that force more and more. So as you deepen into yourself, you start to know things. You just know things more and more. It's very powerful. So cycle awareness is the key. Shani, maybe you could just say a little bit more about what we really mean by that.
Yes, I mean, we've been banging on it about it through this retreat.
Ah.
And generally, if you hang around with us, we'll be banging on it all the time. And there are so many subtle layers to this process. But as I said before, it's just each day noticing your mood, your tendency, your inner atmosphere. And it's really helpful to note that, with a word or two or a phrase, or maybe you pick an image or a piece of music that captures something of how you're feeling that day. And then the second piece of the honoring and the practicing of cycle awareness is then going with honoring the place you're in as best you can. And when it's an uncomfortable energy, for example, you feel really reactive or irritable, um, actually noticing that and feeling that will reveal to you what your needs are. And, more often than not, because often that feeling comes up premenstrually, we're needing more space for ourselves. So if you can give yourself more space, or even just 1% more space, like if you're a mother with toddlers, it might just mean closing the door when you go to the toilet. Just something that gives you some sense of your own space is going to make a big difference in terms of you honoring the place you're in. And that's going to give you that feeling of being ever more deeply held by your cycle. And it gets the ball rolling. So that's really at the heart of um, what activates this power in your cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's really fun, Shani, isn't it, is when you, over time, you start to notice patterns emerge.
Yeah.
And it's like a fingerprint, isn't it? It's your unique energetic flow, like your fingerprint is unique to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you find yourself organizing your life to support this flow. And it's such an affirmation of yourself when you do that. And that affirmation awakens more, what's the word here? Respect,
Confidence and
confidence. That's
worth, and yeah,
Yes,
makes you feel so
confidence and
good.
worth. That's it, Shani. It's
Mm,
confidence and worth
mm,
that starts to grow, and those that really supports you in this knowing of who you know who you are, and daring to show that.
mhm.
Um, so yes, in that way, you're deepening into the powers of the cycle, and yeah, they just get more and more unleashed through this practice of cycle awareness. And I just want to add, because I'm post-menopause, of course I want to mention menopause here, but it all adds up to something incredibly potent at menopause. So menopause is like the graduation of this whole power journey, and something really comes to a head or makes sense in a very sort of, I want to say it should be in a very kind of integrated way if you're supported. But yeah, menopause is sort of the cherry on the cake, I want to say.
That's a new story of menopause.
That's a new story of menopause.
The cherry on the cake. I love that.
Uh,
There's actually a wonderful comment from about a postmenopausal womb here from Norris,
oh yeah.
who says, postmenopausal womb visit, the baskets of shining tiny eggs freed and circulating around the body like constellations and energy patterns.
Wow. I've got
Did
it.
you say that's from someone post-menopause?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, freed, say around the body like constellations. Because everything is freed up at menopause, isn't it, Norris? Those tiny eggs of possibility are now actual creations.
Thank you so much for all these shows. I can't wait to read them in detail. After we finish this, I'll just read a couple out now. This is from Kate. Strong warmth, spaciousness, connection of whole body and neck, in particular to womb area. Powerful, strong warrior woman standing in my womb, legs wide and arms outstretched.
Mm. It's such an embodied um, experience that you've had that feels so, it sounds like something and you really connected up and integrated and like you really occupied yourself. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Is it possible to read one more, Sophie?
Yes. There's, yeah, you go, Alexandra. Yeah.
I want to acknowledge Amanda, who found it hard. I've been in a very hard place related to my vulva, related to physical and mental health. So what came up for me is grief and anger and sadness, frustration and crying. So Amanda, menstruation is the most, when we're most permeable and most vulnerable to ourselves. It's a very tender place. And I hope that I just want to just acknowledge very tender feelings to you. And that as those feelings come, maybe there may be something else more there as well, underneath that, emerging. But just keeping that lovely tenderness with what you're present with. Thank you for that tender sharing, Amanda.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, and thank you, everyone. We'll look through these later, won't we?
Yeah,
And
I'm
read each and
really,
every one.
really enjoying reading them, and It'll be very interesting to hear how these experiences that you've all had unfold, because it isn't just in the moment of experiencing it now. It's almost like a dream seed that's been planted in your being, and over the coming days and weeks and months, and certainly while you're practicing cycle awareness, it's got something is going to start to unfurl for you. And I'm thinking of the people here who have said things like, I felt deeply relaxed but had no image. There is something there that's been awoken in you. That relaxation itself is really important, and so just stay close to whatever you felt and experienced, and don't belittle it or judge it or somehow think you didn't get it or whatever. It's absolutely not the case. I really want to affirm the experience that each one of you have had. It's meaningful to you, and whether you understand it now or not, yeah, it's really important.
And there was a
Yeah.
lot of talk of Alexandra, do you want to go? Is something you want to
Really,
add?
just to acknowledge what Shani has said there, that, something has been set in motion.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm, mm,
Yeah. There's also lots of talk around of connection. And there's a reason why we at Red School hold group programs. It's
Mhm.
because something happens when we gather together
yes.
to do pieces like this, to do this kind of work. So
Mhm.
Alexandra, Shani, can you speak about the strength in numbers, why it's important to be in community to do this work?
Mm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, for one thing, we are really carving out a whole new way of being in the world. Our world is not cyclical. This way of being is not honored and respected. So it can be really hard to trust your cycle when you're out there on your own, up against the tide of a linear world. And there's so much, shame and, historical shame and fear and all that we're all contending with. So there's something about us coming together that really helps us to um, trust the experience we're having, affirm it. We need each other as a buffer. Really, it's almost like training wheels. We need each other as training wheels so that we can stabilize ourselves in our own experience, stabilize ourselves in this new consciousness, this new way of being. Um, and then ultimately we'll be able to go out there on our own. Although I've got to say, I never really want to go out there on my own. What I've discovered through cycle awareness is that we really need each other. It's really brought that home to me, the importance of community and connection, just as a way of being in the world, really.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, I feel what you're saying here, Shani, is just so, so important. I mean, I would dare to say this work is actually meant to be done together
Yeah.
because I have really, we've seen this as really almost like an alchemical force that gets to work when we come together. So we're bigger than the sum of the parts of us. It's amazing. And it actually allows us to break through to new layers of knowing and revelation. I mean, that's how our work has
Mm.
continued to expand and grow because of just being with each other, being in circle with others and hearing stories and just holding those stories and hearing another story, and then something goes ka-chunk in the field and we go, oh my god, oh my god, yes.
Yeah. The maps that we write about in Wild Power, the elucidation of those maps has come through people sharing their stories of their cycle experiences.
Mm,
So
mm.
when we all come together, that's what happens. This knowledge is unearthed. We unearth it together. Isn't that incredibly exciting?
Wow.
We find it riveting.
Yeah. I mean, I never, this work is never going to be dull for me because every time I enter a new circle of women or people, it just bingo, something kicks off.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Your menstrual nerds, for
Yeah, we are.
sure.
I'm a total minstrel.
we we're going to talk about the wild power immersion now. We really want to invite you to join us. So we're going to go through what the course is about, who it's for, what it offers, and then there's practical details so that you know all about it. If you want to go and explore it right now, actually, the web address is wildpower.online. So who's it for? Let's start there. Alexandra, who is Wild Power, the Wild Power Immersion for?
Sophie, this course is for anyone who menstruates, or has a menstrual cycle, whether you're currently cycling or not. So you can work with this information by using the moon cycle as your cycle template. So yeah, anyone who menstruates has always had a menstrual cycle.
Great. Thank you. That's really clear.
It's very
if you've had a menstrual cycle. Can you share more about then what the benefits are, what the program offers, why someone would want to come and join this program?
Oh, I noticed the first thing I want to say is fun.
Yeah, it is actually really good fun.
It's really good fun. It's like an adventure together. But it is really a unique opportunity for you to really get on board with this incredible power process that's built into your body. So the immersion will really hold you in a kind of discipline of attention and focus that you probably don't have in your normal everyday life. So it's this lovely container that'll really help you to just hone down deeper into something and awaken something so much more. And so yeah, our whole course is in service of the realization of this inner power you're holding.
That's right, Alexandra. It does the immersion, as the name suggests, you are immersed into this deep dive relationship with your cycle, and you're going to really get to know this inner territory of your cycle. And we're going to get into a lot of the precise detail on how your cycle holds and supports you to realize your wild power, how it holds and supports you to really be more in your authority. So it's over 6 sessions, and in the first 2 sessions, we are going to be supporting you to sort of lower into this power process of your menstrual cycle, to come into this deeper level of awareness and engagement with what is actually happening inside you. And then in the sessions that follow, we're going to go through each phase of the menstrual cycle, each of the inner seasons, and look at its connection to your power. And you'll get to discover, as Alexandra said, it's a bit of an adventure. You'll get to discover what your relationship is to each phase and what that tells you about your power, where your strengths lie, where your vulnerabilities lie, and then what you need, what's needed for you to bring tangible change in your life, how you can care for those vulnerabilities, how you can harness your strengths. And then finally, in the final session, we're going to share how you can fully access this wild power at menstruation, and we'll talk more about that when we get to, that's part of the course bonus, so we'll speak more about that later.
Yes, so just as your menstrual cycle is holding you on this wonderful evolutionary journey, so this course, the Wild Power Immersion, is holding you to find the holding of your cycle. So you're going to just build a whole new layer of intimacy with your cycle process, and it is then going to awaken a bigger degree of power and authority in you.
Yes to that. I'm seeing lots of practical questions coming in, and some other questions too, so we'll have some time for your questions at the end of the call. So practical details. We begin in 2 weeks on February the 7th. There are going to be 6 live sessions, and they happen on Thursdays at 4:30 London time, which is 11:30 New York time. And there's 6 sessions, but there's a special bonus retreat at the end of the course, which is this consummation of your power. It's a sacred inner winter retreat. All the sessions are going to be online on Zoom like this, and they'll all be recorded. So if you aren't able to show up live, and many people aren't, we try Okay, the website says 6:30. Did I get the time wrong?
It is 6:30.
It's quite likely that I got the time wrong. So I just blame a sleep deprived brain. I'm sorry. Yes, 6:30. The sessions are an hour and a half long.
Hour and 15.
Johnny, I might just hand over to you. Okay.
Actually, I'm not entirely trustworthy either.
No, they were an hour long, and they've become an hour and 15 minutes long because I said we need longer because
Well
we want
done.
more time to talk with people.
And we
Yeah.
always do need more time. Okay, 6 sessions, 6:30 UK time, 6:30 London time. And there'll be an hour and 15 minutes online on Zoom. And they'll all be recorded, and many people can't join live. We try and find the time that's best for everyone, and some people can't, so you can tune in later by listening to the recording. So each week will be its own deep exploration. There'll be a set of recorded teachings from Alexandra and Shani, and then we'll have a live session where we have a live experiential exercise, which will be guided in a similar way to today from Alexandra and Shani. Then lots of space for you to bring your questions, your insights, and to receive feedback from Alexandra and Shani. There'll be embodied practices each week, and then sacred tasks, which Alexandra referred to earlier, to integrate the wisdom of each week. And we'll also have optional, this is new for this year, optional live mentoring sessions with our faculty, who are Jane Watson, Abby Denyer-Buick, JD Mountjoy, and Penny Fuller. So they're holding these mentoring circles as a way for you to connect with them and with the community and receive their profound insight. They're incredible leaders, each in their own right. We'll have a course website, so that's your sort of home tree for the course, where you can access all of the details of the course, the teachings, your bonuses, because there are some great bonuses which you can read about on the website, and all the live call details and the recordings. And because community is such an important part of this work, we've got a community platform which is called Circle, where you can connect with the other people on the course. And in previous rounds, this has been an amazing place, an amazing hub. There's been poetry shared and art and wonderful musings and insights, and it's a real source of inspiration and upliftment. Yeah, it's a magical community. Mm-hmm. Of which you might have got a sense of today. There is real magic in this community. So to explore the course and to take your seat, you can go to wildpower.online. Alexandra, Shani, I'd love to hear what your hopes are, what your longings are, and your intentions for those who choose to join us this year.
Oh, I'm so glad we get to answer this question. I'm feeling this really strongly, actually. I just want you to go away feeling so much more, happier in yourself. It's like you've had a taste of your own rhythm, and how much goodness can come to you out of just that taste. So just feeling more at ease and more comfort with yourself. And I love this idea of inner warmth. There's just more of a feeling of warmth inside you for yourself. So just a more tangible connection, deeper connection to yourself, to your body. And to feel, I keep using this word, and but this word is very real for me. It's to feel you have this magic inside you, that this stuff works and that it actually delivers. It's kind of amazing if you can really work with the cycle. So it's this real tangible feeling of an internal guidance system that's very vivid and alive, and it's on side. It's really your inner ally, your secret ally. And I want you to have a real taste of that inner guidance system and to have more trust in that.
Good one. Yes, so ditto to all that. And, as this immersion is about your relationship with power, my hope is that each one of you comes away with an upgraded relationship to your power, that you feel your authentic authority and this sort of invigorated sense of agency, like I can do this, I can make a difference, I can have impact, that you feel your own potency. That's what I would love for you. I'd love you to be in right relationship with your own power. Yeah.
Yeah, when you speak that, Chani, I think of this feeling of feeling resourced.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, a real sense of feeling resourced.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and for me, not only are you feeling something magical at work within, but the cycle has also begun to restore you to a greater sense of belonging in the world.
Hmm.
You know, as though you're held, if you like, by something larger, that there's something more meaningful at work. I mean, I always felt that that was one of the most blessed of blessings that I got from the cycle awareness and from menstruation, that feeling of, oh, I do, but I belong. I have something. Yeah, I have a place in the world.
And we often get that feedback, actually, and it
Yeah, we do,
creates
don't we?
a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks you too. We have a special early bird discount happening now for the next 3 days. So the program is $275, or we have a payment plan. That's the early bird discount. We have a payment plan of $145 over two payments.
And
And because
That's American dollars, because someone was asking.
yeah, someone asked that earlier. Thanks, Shani. And because we feel so passionately about the connection between us restoring our own inner ecology and restoring the ecology of our earth, for everyone who joins our programs, we always plant trees through the organization Tree Sisters, so that as you nourish your own body and your own connection to yourself, you're also nourishing the body of the earth. So we will plant trees for you, 10 trees for each person that joins. I just want to quickly name the bonuses that you get. There's the bonus Sacred Inner Winter Retreat that I mentioned earlier. There's Alexandra and Shani's menstrual cycle awareness ebook, which has supported thousands of people to become more intimate with their cycles and harness their wisdom. It's a really powerful resource. And also our inner seasons meditation, which is gorgeous because you can do it again and again to keep diving deeper and deeper into this living ecology of your being that passes through 4 seasons each cycle. Okay, so the early bird bonus, 72 hours. It ends on this Friday at 5 p.m. London time. So let's move on to some questions, because people have been sending questions in. I want to make sure we get to as many of them as we can. So someone at the beginning asked, what age would you recommend for people that join this program? Because someone's daughter is turning 18 and she's really encouraging her to start this work straight away.
Ah, it's a hard. Shani, you're the mother here.
It's a very hard question to answer, because there are
Yeah.
some 18-year-olds, who are in a much more mature, and others who are not. So you know your own daughter, but you've also met us, you've also heard us speak. There is a level of psychological sophistication to this work, and it requires a level of maturity. Certainly, we're talking about this immersion. It's not aimed at young people, it's aimed at adults. But if she has a maturity, and if she's happy to go along with it and take what she can from it, it may work well for her. But you know her, so I feel like you're the one who's going to be able to make that call. However, when it comes to the practice of menstrual cycle awareness, um, you're never too young to start. And our ebook is just a very simple guide to that, how to do it, how to chart, how to track. And that might be the way in for her, perhaps some time charting her cycle. Yeah, so that's something I really recommend, um, that she gets going with soon. Yeah.
Yes, that sounds great, Shani. Yeah. Mm.
Many people ask how much time is required to get the best out of this course, and we've changed it a little bit this year. I think I can answer this one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are the teachings to listen to each week, and then there's the live session to join. So that altogether will be less than 2 hours. And then there are the optional mentoring circles, there's the optional listening partnership. And if you want to take some time connecting with the group in Circle in the online platform, that could be up to a couple more hours. So somewhere between 2 and 4 hours a week is about as much time as it would take to really get the most out of this program. Yeah, would you agree, you two?
Yeah, the mentoring circles there are 2 a week and they're an hour each, and you can drop into one or both of those, depending on how much connection you want to have and how much live engagement and input you would like to have. Yeah, and the listening partnership actually you could do in half an hour each week, up to an hour, but half an hour is also good. So, yes.
Someone was just asking, so the Thursday session is experiential. Yes, exactly. So there are
Yeah.
the teachings that are recorded that you can listen to in your own time, and then we get together for the experiential moment.
And as part of that experiential process, you will get to share with each other, and you'll get to share with Alexandra and I, and we will offer some feedback and perhaps context and something that will help you to really work with what's come out of the process. So that's a very rich part of the experience, is that personal guidance, and also hearing other people's experience, and the kinds of suggestions that are made for them, because we often experience common things. There are certain themes that we all seem to tap into. So it's a very rich experience, that.
There's a question from Jill. Alice says, it's just not possible to say no to this. And Louisa has just signed up.
We agree,
We
Alice.
agree,
We
Alice.
agree.
Yeah, definitely.
Can't say no to the cycle. This is a question from Jill. Alexandra, please could you speak to leaning into your cycle in correlation with the cycle of the moon? I'm post-menopause and I feel that this is my ticket in. Is this appropriate for the Wild Power course?
Jill, it is, yes. And so I spotted your question actually, so I'm so glad that Sophie's picked it up, because I did want to say something. So day one of the moon, so you could start from next Tuesday, February the 1st, and that is the equivalent, the same as day one of bleeding, so it's the beginning of the cycle. And I would suggest that you just each day notice, just as Shani described about cycle awareness, that you apply that same thing to yourself each day. And it's much more subtle. I can only share my own experience, Jill. It's more subtle. It's both subtle and irritatingly distinct at the same time. And there are certain parts of the moon where I really have to pay attention. And there are other parts that are just more ho-hum and I don't really bother about. But it's very well worthwhile to just each day check in with yourself, because it's just a lovely practice anyway. And over maybe 2 or 3 months, you may start to observe subtle patterns, because I mean I have very distinct patterns that I have to be very careful about. I have to really take care of myself. For instance, I can get very high on the dark moon, and then by about day 3 of the moon I can crash. I've gotten smart about that one now. Not to get carried away with myself. And of course, full moon is very intoxicating, and I have to sort of kind of hold myself fairly carefully through that. And you can then apply everything that we are teaching on the course to the phase you're in the moon phase, because what you're working with is the developmental stages of your psyche. It's like, and you need all this post-menopause, you still need all the elements that we're talking about. You can't abandon this kind of information once you stop cycling. You just don't have a menstrual cycle that's holding it anymore. I do hope that's helped a little bit, Jill. Oh, Sophie?
I am muted. Thanks, Alexandra. And as you mentioned earlier in the call, Jill saying it's very helpful, thank you. The post-menopause, you can work with the Wild Power immersion process. You know, it's completely relevant whether you have a cycle currently or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, we've just reached 1/2 past the hour, and I really want to honor everyone's time. So thank you so much for joining us today. Wildpower.online is where to look. Yeah, it did go so fast, Jill. It really did. Wildpower.online is where to look to take your seat on the immersion. We really hope you'll join us. And for those of you that can stay with us for a couple more minutes, we would like to close with this beautiful vision, which is Shani and Alexandra's prayer for menstruality, which is just such a gorgeous way to wrap up and integrate an experience like this. So,
Yeah.
Mm.
So you may like to close your eyes and just let these words wash over you. Imagine a society in which the cycles of life are revered and respected as the quiet orchestrators of our lives, instilling a deep reverence for the planet and everything on it. Imagine that the menstrual cycle is understood as the heartbeat of this great orchestration, and most crucially honored as the sacred source of life for us humans. Imagine that knowledge of the full spectrum and power of the menstrual cycle is commonplace, and we all feel the utter rightness of having this experience within us. Imagine a world in which the menstrual cycle is respected as a spiritual practice. Imagine young people growing up in this menstrual affirming world. And imagine that throughout our menstruating years, we grow this fierce inner dignity about the uniqueness of who we are. A deep affirmation that comes through our mindful engagement with our menstrual cycle. And through the years of cycle awareness, we are supported to grow into our full capacity to take responsibility for who we are and for this beautiful world that we live in.
Imagine a world in which menopause is recognized as a healthy, organic step in our evolutionary journey. In our deep self, we know we've been prepared for this moment, even as we might feel trepidation. Because we've developed impeccable self-care from years of living and loving our cycle, we know our physical and emotional vulnerabilities and how to care for them. We willingly accept the necessary challenge of menopause, knowing that post-menopause we'll step into the vital and powerful role of serving our community and the world. We know we'll be profoundly met and respected.
yes. Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, Shani. And thank you to each and every one of you that joined us live today. Thank you for those of us who are listening to the recording. And yeah, we hope to meet many of you in 13 days' time for the start of the Wild Power Immersion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's been
Thank you, Sophie.
so
Thank you,
lovely.
Louise. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Yeah.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah. Mm.